The What Lurks on My Kindle tag. This is a tag that has been originates from a video by Michael K. Vaughan, who is participating in Criminality's 100 book challenge, where you read 100 books in your library before you go out and you buy another book. I'm not participating in this challenge myself. I believe Steve has dubbed it as rather satanic. And speaking of Steve Donahue has glommed onto this tag with his Cthulhu-like tentacles and is has decided to weaponize it into a tag where he wants everybody to haul out their electronic device, whether that's a Kindle or something else, and kind of go through their device and say, okay, I have all these unread things on here. Let's pull out a selection and talk about them. And I thought, okay, hey, this is actually a really useful tag. There's often tags are good ways to help you think through whatever kind of bookish questions there are. And this is a really good tag to just help you kind of go through your electronic library and say, what do I have on my device? Because yeah, let's go through that. Now, Steve wanted you to start out by saying, okay, well, how long have you had your particular electronic devices? For me, I started off, I think, about 2010 with a Kobo, which I soon found that I couldn't liberate Kobo's particular DRM. I was finding it hard to liberate, so what I would do is I would buy stuff from the Amazon store, use certain programs to be able to kind of free it up into EPUBs and then put it on the Kobo. I just like doing things difficult. But after a while, that did get too difficult, and I bought a Kindle. That Kindle lasted me a couple of years before it started kind of glitching on me. And of course, glutton for punishment, I went back and I got another Kindle, a Kindle Paperwhite 10th generation, sticker not included. This is basically a way for me to try and find the all these kind of nondescript black things. I try and put color on them so I don't lose them continually. So yeah, I've been kind of an e-device reader for, I guess, 11 years now. Yeah, and I mean, I think as I've gone along, I've read this more, I've used this more and more, especially before I got glasses. I was finding that it's like it was harder and harder to read paper books, and the joy of electronic things, I can actually make gigantic text if I needed to be able to read it, which at the end there, I needed gigantic text before I finally got off my butt and got some glasses. And even now, I still find I really like ebooks. I don't really particularly have any gigantic attachment to paper books over ebooks. If I've got the paper book, that's awesome. I like paper books, but I also like ebooks, and I think it's would have to be like, oh, I really love a book and I want to have a physical copy of it. Though I'm well aware of moves and things like that, or just make physical books such a pain, and stuff like that. The other thing is that I've now found with glasses, my favorite place to read probably still is in the bath, a nice hot bath, which glasses suck. Glasses suck. They just steam up. So oftentimes, if I'm in the bath, I definitely want to read an ebook, and I just make the font really large again. So those are, I guess, Steve, that answers your questions of when I got it and how I use it. I do like having just a dedicated device for it. I do find this thing that I'm filming on, this phone, it's far too easy to, like, oh, I'm curious about that, and to kind of bop away and suddenly go down a research hole, or start watching fluffy cat videos or whatever other videos, and suddenly you haven't been reading for a while. I do not have the laser focus of Steve Donahue, but who does? Who does, really? So yeah, okay. Well, that lengthy preamble out of the way, let me talk about the books. The books that on my Kindle. I will dispense first with the 93 samples that I have on have on the Kindle here. I do find, especially when I'm watching my favorite booktubers, I'll often be like, oh, okay, is that in the library? It's like, oh, no, it's not in the library. Oh, okay, well, I'll go over to Kindle. Oh, I can get a sample of it. And I'll download the sample, which is how I've ended up with 93 samples of novels, which I've never gotten around to reading. The most recent of those from Sean the Book Maniac is Potiki and A Royal Experiment, or I think it's A Strange Family, all about George III, which actually I've read the introduction to that, and it does sound interesting, so maybe I will actually make the leap and buy it and then not read it forever and ever. Everything and Less, the novel in the age of Amazon, which is a Steve Donahue one. To and the problem with having done this, so having had this around for so long, you get samples like at the very beginning. I've got what Day Boy, Nice Dragons Finish Last, the Bitterwood Bible, which I have no idea, I can't remember at all. That's the thing, is like you get that, and I mean that comes into the actual novel. So let's get on to the novels. So I can tell that I probably did start buying books on Kindle around 2010, because I've got some books on here. Zendegi by Greg Egan. It's a science fiction novel by the Australian author, written in 2010, set in Iran in the near future, and deals, which a near future could mean probably the past now, and deals with the mapping the human brain, virtual reality, and the democratization of Iran. So so I have this on my thing. I have no idea why I picked it. I think at one point I was just sort of interested in Greg Egan and was trying to find a way in, so I got that. There's one that has like, oh, if I'm putting up book things, it's got a very hot cover. One of those like hot covers on it. Mozart's Blood. That one of those things I may have been browsing through and maybe gone, oh, that's hot. It's by Mozart's Blood by Louise Marley, 2010. As a young soprano in the 18th century, Octavia Voss was bitten by a vampire patroness during a sexual tryst with Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and was imbued with the essence of his astonishing musical gifts. So it sounds fun. I can see impulse buying Jay snapping that up and then never getting around to it. There are authors on here which it's like when I bought them, I was probably hotter on them and have cooled since. I've got The Cat's Table, Michael Ondaatje, who is a Sri Lankan born Canadian novelist. English Patient was definitely a favorite of mine for the longest of time. And The Cat's Table was published in 2011. It's one of those things of like, I think I fell off of Ondaatje after Anil's 2000s Anil's Ghost. And I I just stopped reading. I've never picked him up again. I think there was just something, I just kind of, there was a certain kind of poetic elusiveness that my brain switched over, or something in my taste switched over, and I just started finding it annoying versus bewitching or whatever like that. Not bewitching, but definitely went off on was, I've got 7S. Neil Stephenson's 2016 880-page novel. It's a world-ending apocalypse, and then it skips forward 5,000 years later. And I just have not done any Neil Stephenson after the Baroque cycle and Ananthem, I guess that, which I found a really annoying book in that it painstakingly went through all the certain steps, really explaining, which I enjoyed with Neil Stephenson. But for me, the info dump, he is the master. He had been, at least for me, the master of the info dump for the longest of times. But I found to me, he feels like he's gone up his own ass and just has gotten way too far into, I'm going to painstakingly construct all this science, which I don't care about, and has fallen off on his plot and character building in the meantime. So yeah, it's like 7S. I'd be much more likely to get back to Michael Ondaatje than I would be to 7S. There's other authors that I actually do love. Children of Earth and Sky by Guy Gavriel Kay, 2016 book, set in a world inspired by conflicts and dramas of the Renaissance Europe. He constructs these kind of fantasy novels that are kind of an overlay of actual historical periods. I really liked his Byzantine novels, the mosaic novels. It's a duology. Man, I love that book. I whenever I get into one of Guy Gavriel Kay's books, I love them. They are chunky, and it does always take me a while to get back into them. And I guess, I think I've got this, and I've probably got a hard copy of one that's sort of set in kind of Chinese, kind of ancient, I think it's ancient Chinese stuff. I can't even remember the title. He's one of these people who's like, wow, I always forget about exactly how great he is. Which actually probably another one with that would be Red Mars by Kim Stanley Robinson. The first book in his Mars trilogy books, published in 1992, which is all about the colonization and kind of the terraforming of Mars. And this is supposed to be his classic series. I loved his Aurora book, kind of generational thing. Basically, actually, it's funny. The Mars trilogy is all about leaving the planet Earth and colonizing somewhere else, terraforming somewhere else. And Aurora is sort of this book, kind of a cautionary book of saying like how precious the planet Earth is and how we are so particularly evolved for the planet of Earth, and the chances of us actually finding somewhere that wouldn't just immediately kill us or just couldn't do this job is so the chances and the difficulties are so monumentally stacked against us that we should really actually maybe put our energies into saving our goddamn planet versus, oh, we're just going to leave because this particular little tiny ecosystem that we have here, that we've developed, this little pond that we've developed, and should be so precious to us. And then, I've got books where it's like, I feel like I miss the time. I missed the time, but I'm just like, oh, if I'd read this as immediately when I got it, I would have been on the thing. But now that I've waited too long, I've got these hesitations. Mike Frost, the postmodern postmodern prognosticator, who actually does go by Mike Frost now in his channel. Back in the day, well before Girl, Woman, Other, was talking about how great this novel, The Emperor's Babe, was. It's a historical novel in verse. Tale of forbidden love in bustling 3rd century London is an intoxicating cocktail of poetry, history, and fiction. Feisty, precocious Zulika, daughter of a Sudanese immigrants, made good and restless teenage bride of a rich Roman businessman, craves passion and excitement. When she begins an affair with the emperor, Septimus Severus, she knows her life will never be the same. I had the chance. I had this book on my. I owned this book, and I had the chance to read it before before Evaristo became, Booker winning with somebody else, Booker winning novelist. But I didn't take the chance at the time, and it's like I should really just thump down and read it. But I didn't. And then when she won that, I was like, oh well. I didn't take my chance. It's funny. There's some kind of a weird mental block there. Another one where that kind of comes in is Nine Fox Gambit by Yoon Ha Lee, which is the first of a science fiction trilogy, which I got. Like, it's a lot of these. It's like, oh, it was on sale, so I bought it, and it was like, oh, it's supposed to be really amazing. It was the next big thing in science fiction. But then I heard kind of lukewarm things for the next in the trilogy and the next one after that, and it was like, oh, do I actually want to start this? I actually went on Goodreads, which of course you should never ever trust, but actually there's a lot of positive reviews for the second and third in the trilogy on Goodreads. Though of course what happens is people read the first one, and the people who didn't really jive with it don't go on to the second one, so it's kind of a self-selecting group. But the thing that I found as I was, this is the really useful thing of this tag. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Michael. Is that as I'm going through, I go, oh yeah, I've got the first, but I wouldn't probably go on to the second or the third. I have the second book also on my Kindle here as I was going through, and it's like, oh, the Raven Stratagem I also own. So I own 2/3 of this goddamn trilogy. Maybe I should just, try the first one, and if it really sucks for me, I could just I'll delete them both. But that I thought that was hilarious. It's like, I really do not know what's on here. Thank you. That it's like I doing a little bit of housekeeping and actually looking at stuff is a good idea. There is the books on here that I think you get those times when you're brave, like you get ambitious, and then you buy the book, and then you go like, oh, now I have to read it, and it somewhat like intimidates you. I think that's the case with probably The Lesser Bohemians by Emer McBride. It's a stream of consciousness, contemporary literature, won a lot of prizes. I think The Guardian was going on about it at some point. And, I like probably another, I bought it on sale, and it was like, oh, but, stream of consciousness, it's going to be difficult. I have to be in a certain mood. Some people are like, oh, the harder, the better, the more, I have to fight through something. It's like, I have to be in a really particular mood. And I haven't been back in that mood, I guess. That kind of probably pairs, I'm kind of bouncing back and forth. That probably also pairs with a good couple of other ones. There's Blonde by Joyce Carol Oates, 2017. The Norma Jean or Marilyn Monroe novel, historical novel. It's 754 pages. I think it's one of these things of I was watching Eric Carl Anderson, who is a big booster of Joyce Carol Oates, and he has such great wonderful taste in stuff, and I think I kind of I latched onto that particular gigantic Joyce Carol Oates book to choose. So I own that. It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna start Joyce Carol Oates. It's like, no, let's not start with a manageable novel. Let's get a big chunker. And it's like, oh god, now I look at that and I go 700 and something pages. While we're blaming booktubers, let's circle back to Steve Donahue, who The Catholic School by Edoardo Albanati, 2019, 1,200 page novel. It won the Strega Literary Prize in Native Italy. It's a gigantic book. It is a gigantic book. It's like, really, oh my god, I don't know. I own it though. I own it now, and it's like, the good thing is, it's like I would never buy that book, a physical copy of that book. It's like that size. It's like, oh, that my poor old weak wrists. I don't know what that weak wrists would be. Not that would not be good. But yeah, that's definitely comes under the, oh god, get that. And it's like, well, I'll be reading that for a year. Just one book probably. Shorter book, but one that I'm equally kind of intimidated by is Piranesi by Susanna Clarke, 2020. It's just, I've heard enough about it that it seems like people like, oh, I had a hard time getting into it. I couldn't understand. There's mythology stuff into it. I loved Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which was a much longer book. It's definitely, it feels a lot more doable than The Catholic School. Where am I at? Okay. I'm probably gonna stop there. Other than, oh yeah, and I'm just gonna add a little subsection, which is rereads, books that I either had. I think Less by Andrew Sean Greer is actually one I got as a library book, and either an audio library book or a thing. And it's one of those books that I wanted to reread, because at the initial point of Less, I thought it was an entitled white guy book. But the more about, you know, an entitled white guy who wasn't getting considered for like awards and stuff like that. But the more I actually listen to other people talk about it, the more it's like, oh, you know, maybe that's actually, I kind of missed the point. It was actually kind of more commenting on that, commenting on the nature of awards, not in a way that's dissing what people maybe more value or awards for now, but like, you know, just there's just that cycle. It's one of those books I would like to get back to, so I did buy that as an ebook because I wanted to get back to it. Another one I'm pretty sure probably was on sale somewhere, and I thought, oh, okay, I'll pick that up because at some point I do want to circle back to it, is The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco, a book that I had, you know, big chunky paperback, and I was on a bus going through Europe, and I just slowly kind of plowed my way through it, you know, while there's all that driving around, while I should be looking at majestic vista on the left, majestic vista on the right. It's like, no, I'm just reading Umberto Eco, you know, which, you know, it was set in Europe, so you know that's I wasn't completely wasting my life, was I? But yeah, I thought, okay, that's actually an Umberto Eco that I really enjoyed. What's the Foucault Pendulum? That was another case of, I think, of an author I felt like going up his own butt, or basically his interests diverging from mine too widely, whereas I thought there was a better balance in Name of the Rose. At least that's my memory of it. That was like back in the 90s. I think I read that for the first time. So yeah, rereads as well. You can put on there. But okay, I think I will stop there. That is enough. I mean, there's probably a bunch more on there, but them's the highlights for this one. So yes, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Steve. That was a fun and probably good healthy house cleaning of my Kindle here. So yes, with its electronic tree on the front. All right, I will leave it there. More videos later. So yeah, yeah, I'll leave it there. More of the videos later. I guess so.